right. All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Board of Supervisors of Elections on Thursday, January 15th, 2025. It is now 7:01 p.m. And for roll call, Liam Mercer,
Present.
myself, Eileen Leahy, Debbie Yatzik is traveling and will not be able to join us this evening. And Regina Watkins Eldridge is with us this evening, the city clerk. Any public comments submitted, Regina? No, okay. And for approval of minutes, December 18th, 2025. Oh, did I say 2026 when I opened up? I did. This is the meeting for January 15th, 2026. Anyway, the minutes for last month are being deferred to to the February meeting. All right, and then old business, we'll get right into it. The expansion of the Board of Supervisors of Elections for the membership. So we had discussed it last month. Alderman Savage had joined us, and Liam, thank you for taking it on and working on it. I reviewed the one that you had sent earlier, and I just kind of skimmed the one that you just sent a little bit ago. Maybe you could go over kind of the differences between the two and kind of what your thoughts are on it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'll give just kind of a brief overview of what I was hoping to achieve. There's some language that's a little bit longer. I also shared it with Ashley ahead of this meeting,
Oh, good.
feedback, so I can share what she had responded to as well, or what she had said. But the goal of this in practicality standpoint would have two, and I think this is what we all kind of had agreed what we wanted, and I was set out with the task to write it out. But the majority party, based on the number of registered voters in the city of Annapolis, would have two members. The second, the major or the party with um, the second most registered voters in the city of Annapolis would get one uh, uh, member of the board. There would be always one unaffiliated member, and then uh, the fifth member would be essentially the city council's choice. Could be another party, could be uh, another unaffiliated, could be a different party than the top two. I added in this something that Alderman Savage had asked, last time, and kind of incorporated into this, where if there is a third party that meets a certain threshold, and I think I wrote it as 10% of the total registered voters, that that party would automatically get the fifth seat. It would be required to be. So that then it would be the third place vote. A bunch of the extra language that's in here is about breaking ties, which I imagine would be incredibly rare because we're talking about registered voters, and I, I don't anticipate that. But if you don't have language about it and it happens, then you get yourself in a pickle. The other parts that I sought to really flesh out was the self nomination perspective that will be needed for the unaffiliated voters or for the unaffiliated member. So essentially, I've given this some thought, and I think the best way to do this is we still have the parties nominate. The top party would be requested to nominate 4 candidates to fill 2 seats. The second party would be required to submit 3 candidates to fill 1 seat, and if there's a third party that qualifies, that party would be required to submit also 3 candidates to submit or to fill 1 seat. And then any seats that are required to be a particular party would need to come from the party's nominations unless the party hasn't submitted enough nominations. Um, but the fifth and final seat, if there is no third party that qualifies for that seat, then it could come from somebody that's self-nominated, even if they're from a party. So basically, my thinking behind that provision was somebody can't change their registration to, it protects a minority party from somebody changing their registration to that party and saying, I'm going to nominate myself, and the city council that's all or majority one party is going to, pick me for that seat that's required to be a certain party. So it basically, the idea is protecting parties and ensuring that they actually get a representative that uh, reflects their interests without necessarily locking other people out of the process. The provision that I think the major change, and I needed to ask Rob if there's anything else, but the one change that he added and then we talked about, and I think he agreed was probably for the best to keep with the language that I had, and that's why I sent the other version, was that he had required that no party could have more than two seats on the
Mhm.
board,
Mhm.
which would essentially mean the majority party would get locked out of that fifth seat, no matter what. And it would, if the city council did not want the second the second party to have that seat, then it would have to be an unaffiliated voter. And I brought up with him that the challenges sometimes, like the scenarios where it can be difficult to have people self-nominate, and if they're, the city council decides there's not somebody that's qualified or not enough qualified people, or something else, and that really it was about giving the city council flexibility to make a decision both from a party representation and unaffiliated representation, but also from a experience and geographic representation of the board, as well as other groups that may be that the council may want represented on this board.
Okay. Well, like I said, overall it looks good. I do have a couple of comments, big surprise. Um, Playing on that theme of what you were just talking about, one of the, I think one of the things that you were able to do, which was really helpful, is we were going back and forth as far as this, what's the majority party. So I think the layout, as you stated, the goals are good. I think I appreciate the breaking ties. I guess it just made the whole thing a little lengthy, and I would ask Ashley if that needs to be in there, if that can be somewhere else, or because I think there's elsewhere in the code talking about how to break ties. So um, I sometimes tend to like to see things a little shorter than longer. So that to me is procedural. So that would just be a question for her. I don't feel that strongly if it stays. It just seemed a little long, particularly since the chance of there being even more than one third party is pretty remote. Um, the 10% that you put in there is fine. That's consistent with what we require for a petition to be for a certificate of candidacy. Um, the
I
one
was kind
thing,
of debating on that point. I was kind of debating whether I felt like it should be 10% or 15, but I'm glad that you said that because I think that makes me feel comfortable with it being 10%.
yeah, and the current, the most recent numbers are nowhere near that for for various reasons. So anyway, that's my thing as far as do we need to really get, because it goes into even, you know, whatever. It goes into a bit of detail that may or may not um need to be there. But anyway, it doesn't need to come out. But um so one of the things that I was looking at this was really to probably take a little bit of the control away from just submitting names. Like, I think the reality is that the central committee just puts names out there. There's no necessary a question about experience or expertise. And so I think that having the application will help do that. I am a little concerned that it's getting really focused, or it continues to be focused on the central committees. I would like to see it maybe drop down to 3 names, which I think is even a challenge sometimes for the central committees. But I'd like to see it 3 names go to the mayor. And the idea that if it's a major or if it's a majority party, that it has to be from the central committee names, to me, kind of dilutes the whole purpose of recruiting people for expertise and experience. And I somewhat go back to the experience we had in terms of getting people on the task force for the elections. None of these people were central committee affiliated people, and yet they came with such a broad spectrum of expertise and experience. So I'm really hesitant. Again, to me, it gives too much weight on the names that come from a central committee, which if how many voters realistically in the city of Annapolis know people on the central committee that they could say, I'm interested. Currently, our central committees have been stronger in the past. I think there's 3 members on the Democratic Central Committee, maybe 2 or 3 on the Republican Central Committee. So that's the area I'd really like to back off a little bit on. I think it's the and I appreciate what you were saying as far as switching. And I think you might be able to cover that by saying must be a registered voter in that party for, say, 1 year or 2 years or something like that. And I think that may have come up in our last meeting as maybe a way to get around it. And again, we're really looking for people who are interested and active. So anyway,
No,
that,
I hear
that's my,
I hear what you're saying, and you're well. I think often the central committee struggle to find people willing to volunteer. So I'm not, you know, I think I think about my experience was, somebody reached out to me through like several connections and said, "Hey, the central committee is looking for people. I'm not part of the central committee, but somebody talked to me who's talking to so and so." So I get what you're saying is
mhm.
we may not the central committees aren't always able to reach everybody that may be interested. Uh, and they are weak right now. I'm not sure if we should make policy decisions based on the current status of them,
Right.
but
No, I agree.
yeah.
But
Now,
even if they were strong and they said, hey, we have 3 great candidates, there could be somebody that maybe was on the central committee in the past and didn't know it was, I guess if the idea is to kind of broaden the board of supervisors and also broaden its reach, and again, which you had mentioned about the city council, maybe wanting and making sure that there's diversity among the wards and maybe ages, that's where self-nomination, I think, is going to help us. And so to have a pool of people, I think a bigger pool is better. Um,
I would be curious to know what Debbie's opinion on that is. That I wrote it in thinking about a minority party and protecting them, or that's what I was thinking about when I wrote it. And she may not feel like that's important. And I would be curious to know what she thinks about it. But um, yeah,
the other thing I just want to clarify, and Regina may have this, you had mentioned our goals about making the 5th person the city council choice. The process has been that the mayor chooses the nominees, and then it goes to city council for approval. So I'm not quite sure.
No, that's right. It's, I guess I would say city council choice. I mean, I know that the mayor, when putting forth a nomination for, they get nominations from the central parties, and then
Mhm.
they talk to the city council about, who I think the mayor's kind of responsible for polling to understand, who has the most support that of the nominees, and then they nominate that person. Of course, the mayor can nominate whoever they want, and the city council can vote it down and
Right.
force another person to be not brought up for a vote. So it's kind of interchangeable. I know it's the mayor's choice of who to put up for a vote, but ultimately the city council is voting on it.
Correct. But when you use the word choice, it's really, I don't know. The choice, if the city council doesn't approve it, it still goes back to the mayor to come up with another nominee.
Right. I mean, from the list of people that submitted.
Right. Okay. I mean, I don't mean to quibble with it. What would you propose as next steps, though?
Well, actually, before we move on from like the discussion, do you want me
Okay.
to do Ashley's email?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No worries. She said, well, it's thorough, but probably also the most complicated appointment process that I've come across. I think this kind of assumes that there will be lots of people wanting to be a member when in reality, it's often tough to find any volunteers. And then she said in subsection B, I would clarify who needs to determine the registration numbers and at which date of the prior election, the date of the general. She's asking that, would it be the date of the general? And I think it would be. And then
Mhm.
she said, and who performs the draws? I think that's in terms of the tie break.
I'm sorry, what's that?
And who performs the draws? And I think she's talking about like drawing names in a tie break.
Oh,
And then she said it should be clear that this subsection determination is only for purposes of the initial March appointment. Your last sentence does attempt that, but I'm not sure it's clear enough. And then maybe a more general comment. Also, I think we need an easier process for when we get no nominations. We often don't, and the central parties cooperate, but only to an extent.
right. On that last point again points to I think it would be interesting to see the results of a self-nomination process. And also, we have someone in the mayor's office that does boards and commissions that also may be able to participate in terms of identifying people, but that can go to the mayor directly. Um, Her comments did remind me of one thing. One of the things I've wondered for a while is, are we giving the process enough time by saying names have to be in by mid-February, and yet the appointment starts in March? Do we want to take this opportunity to maybe say February 1?
Right, to give the city council more time to review applicants.
Well, to give the mayor's office more time to review. I know you're using, I mean, I just want to stress again, it goes through the mayor. It's not,
No, I know what you, I mean, I came in and did an interview or whatever with the the committee, and I don't even know if the mayor was there for that. But
which committee is,
uh,
oh, you're right. It goes from that's a change in the past year. We didn't go through that, where it goes to, I forget what committee is it, Regina, that does all the boards and commissions now?
You mean does all the boards and commissions?
Now that people are up for a nomination
They go to rules.
to rules, and is that going to stay the same then for elections? Because we've not done that
No,
before.
I don't think that's the process for your board.
It hasn't been, and I didn't,
No, I don't.
it's
No,
not written as now.
no, it's not.
okay, maybe that wasn't supposed to happen, but I went and met with Alderwoman Finlayson and Schandelmeyer, and who was the last one? Anyway, whoever it was, I remember
Arnett, yeah,
chatting with them, answering questions and
you're
stuff.
right. Actually, I was at that meeting
Yes, that's
for
right.
something else, though. All right. Well, that would be something to clarify because that was a change from before, if that needs to be if that applies to us moving forward. Maybe, is there a replacement for Hillary yet?
There's a lady in the mayor's office. Her name is Laura, and I'm not sure exactly if she's going to be taking over the boards and commissions, but she is trying to figure it out at this point.
Okay, Laura, is it Laura Richards?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, that would be just a question to figure out how that might or may not play in. Okay. How do you feel about cutting the number down to 3 that the central committee will nominate?
So I cut it down to 3 for everyone except for the top, the highest party. So I cut the second party, I cut down to 3. We can cut the top party down to 3 as well. I don't know. I felt like there was 2.
This is in the initial submission of names.
Yeah. So should be.
I just thought that might be easier for the central committees, to be honest, and would be sufficient still. It's in the 3rd paragraph.
Yeah, at least for the political party with the most registered voters, at least 4 eligible. Any other party that qualified for a guaranteed position on the board shall nominate at least 3 eligible candidates.
Do we think we need to provide, if there's 3 unaffiliated voters that have submitted, should those names be? Or I guess all of those names would go forth.
Yeah, I mean the unaffiliated, it's whoever applies.
Okay.
Um,
Well, we could get Debbie's feedback on that. I mean, I'd like to just see it go down, but I'm not wedded to it, so. I would propose that we maybe touch base with, Ashley mentioned that it's become a little complicated. Maybe we can look at tweaking it a little bit.
well, so the next steps for this legislation are that it gets submitted by an alderperson for legal review, right? And the staff reports and stuff.
Well, it would also need to be put into legislative language. So my understanding is it would go to Cynthia. Regina?
First of all, you'd have to find an older person to sponsor it and make the request to the Office of Law to start the drafting process.
Okay. Well, Alderman Savage had said he'll sponsor it.
And I know Alderman I'm blanking. Keanu wants to co-sponsor it too, so.
So,
I think that never mind.
okay, so
I think what I was saying, Eileen, is that we can. I would say we should give this back to Alderman Savage and say, please, maybe we can clean up a couple of things. I think we've discussed a couple of things that we want to clean up, and there's a couple of places where, maybe we see different potential paths forward, and there's pros and cons to both. We can share those with him and our pros and cons to the places where we see different paths.
okay.
And submit the language, whoever's sponsoring it can submit the language how they want.
Okay. I'd also like, because you also had mentioned it, to get Debbie's feedback.
That's right. How do we want to do that?
You what?
How can
Well,
we?
I mean, to do that, we'd have to push this off until February. But to be honest, as it's written now, I'd like to see the tweaks before it moves forward. I think we need to approve a final draft here. And I'm not necessarily prepared to do that for 2 reasons. One, to include Debbie, but also I'd like to go ahead. I'd like to see some of those other changes or clarifications made.
I think my thinking is no matter what happens, this board will get another bite at looking at it because it's gonna go to be drafted by the legal department. It's gonna get a staff report. It's gonna go to the rules committee or whichever committee is gonna review it. And then it's gonna be referred to this board again to review it. So we will have another, like, I feel like this upfront process was to get it in a place where we're all roughly on the same, not even roughly, we're all pretty much on the same position about what we think will work well, and then we're sharing that with the older people that are going to be voting on it. Ultimately, we're not the ones voting on it, so we're going to get one more opportunity to give our feedback to however, I mean, it's going to get changed by the law office, and then you know what I mean.
I hear what you're saying, but I'd like to think that that we're putting forth something that all three of us agree on. And there's still a couple of things in there that I'd like to. The most notable one is that, things must be selected from the central committee. Those names. I mean, to me, that's the most important difference that I have with this. So I don't mean to slow things down, and I hear what you're saying, but by the time that comes back to us, to be realistic, this group won't exist as it is now. I doubt it'll come back to us before our term ends in mid-March. Maybe, but
So I guess that's why I was saying if there's places where we're not, because and I guess I would lightly disagree, but I don't like, it's not something that I would live or die on this legislation. So I don't care that much, and I'd almost rather to just lay it out for the alderman who's going to sponsor this bill and say, you know, these are the options. These are what we see are the pros and cons. I think you should weigh those pros and cons, and then you'll have to make a decision. I mean, we can change it. I don't care much.
all right. Well, are you, in terms of laying out the pros and cons, are you thinking about just meeting with Alderman Savage and discussing it, or do you want to put it in paper? Or, I mean, what?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the easiest way to do it is to
All right. Well, how about this? How about I put into my few comments and send them to you, that can also be shared with Alderman Savage and with Debbie. Okay. And then maybe what we can do, since this will go to the Office of Law and Ashley will be involved in it, perhaps Ashley can be in touch with Debbie to get her feedback, so it doesn't necessitate us actually calling a meeting. Does that make sense? It kind of gets around the quorum thing.
Right. That's what I was thinking. So if we're each, we can each have so I don't want you to like feel like I'm like saying something that you don't get to see, and you're saying something, but
No,
that's
I hear you. I mean, I also don't want you to feel I'm just trying to stall this, because I'm not. All right, so how about we just submit comments to you.
yes.
I think Debbie gets back soon, so let's submit comments by next week. By end of next week, the 23rd, or you want them sooner?
I think, yeah, that sounds good. How about over the weekend? I'll update this draft based on some of the things that I think we all feel exactly the same on.
Okay,
Feedback from Ashley, feedback from everyone, and then yeah, if you want to add comments to that, and I can, we can have a document where we've added comments in the margins rather than, editing it, and we can,
Uh-huh.
that way we can all kind of give our
Okay.
2 cents.
And I think it would be helpful to clarify either through Regina or Ashley, is this position going to have to go through Rules Committee? Because that's part of the process. It may not have to be processed here, but it would be helpful to know that. And okay, Regina? Yeah.
I think this process, once it gets to the drafting of the legislation portion, it will definitely be referred to rules.
Right, but I mean, in terms of the nomination of the people,
Oh, okay.
that part, yeah. Okay, yeah, no, I expect it would go to rules. Okay. All right, I think we have a plan. And of course, this is a charter change, so it has to sit for 50 days, so. Okay, well, if we get comments in by the 23rd and get it through, it might get in February, or at least get first reader in February. All right, any comments, Regina, that you have? No, okay. All right, well, I appreciate you doing this, Liam. I know it's not easy doing some of it, but I'm glad that you involved Alderman Savage. Okay. All right, anything else? We can move on? Okay. All right, referrals to the Office of Law concerning double votes. Actually, I probably should call it duplicate votes. I saw that I know that Ashley sent out letters to the people that hadn't responded to the first letter. I guess, Regina, you got the one email from someone. And I did forward that to Liam and Debbie. Is it just the one?
It was just the one.
Okay, so I think we still have one person.
Yes, we received one from Sidel. I don't recall the name of the second person, but I also haven't checked my mail since we had city council on Monday, so it may be in my mailbox. A response
Okay.
if I didn't get an email response.
Okay, so
Sometimes they
you'll
send us a
check.
letter. I'll check.
Okay. Because I do know that in this one, Ashley did put in a deadline. Okay, so hopefully that'll take care of that. Any questions or comments? Okay. Okay, moving on to new business, reimbursement of those members' expenses. Thank you, Regina, for following up. As been mentioned in the past, Debbie Atzik in particular has requested consideration for expenses and including mileage for going up and back to Glen Burnie. And it is in the charter in terms of Board of Supervisors of Elections that we do get reimbursed for that. Regina checked into it, and at least in mileage, the number came out to basically just shy of 73 cents per mile. The question I had for that, I meant to find out if the county does that mileage. If you look at the IRS requirements, my question is as volunteers, do we qualify for that mileage, or do we have to go with the lower volunteer mileage of 14 cents? And I'm not sure who to ask.
I sent your question to the acting city manager and the finance director, and those were the responses from them. And they said basically, since you didn't actually track as you were going back and forth, that you could use a Google search from your home to the county building and back, and we could
Right.
just use the Google mileage to reimburse you for.
Right,
the
so it's about 16 miles from even City Hall. I guess the question then is, there was discussion that referred to what the county reimburses, and they reimburse for election day only, and I was kind of surprised by that, but I mean, who makes the decision? I mean, we had, oh, I didn't print it out. I mean, we had 11, I think it was 11 mandatory meetings. Came out to be, yeah, I think we had 11 mandatory meetings up in Glen Burnie. So are we just going to get reimbursed for election day, or are we going to get reimbursed for all the mandatory meetings? And I don't know who would make that decision.
I think when I read the email, they said as long as you provided them with a letter stating you wanted to be reimbursed and gave us the amount of miles, that they would do the reimbursements.
All right, I'll go back and look at that letter.
Yeah, I
didn't get
just
that.
asked, but as for the reimbursements for ink and paper and things like that, they said you could have asked us for it. We could have given it to you. So they didn't see any reason to reimburse for that.
Right. Okay. All right, so if I'm hearing you correctly, as individuals, we request that to you. Okay. And so,
And I would turn it over to Karen Steele. I already had a conversation with her about it. If you guys send us a letter stating that these were the miles that you traveled for the election, and then provided the Google documentation for the, to show how many miles it was from wherever you left, that she would take care. She would
okay,
take care of the reimbursement.
okay, all right. Liam, any questions or comments? Okay, so I'll communicate that to Debbie. So like I said, I listed out, I don't know if I shared that or not. I think I sent it to you, Regina, but I don't think I sent it to Liam. I'll send that. But I think it was 11. I included the logic and accuracy. We had 3 petitions that we had to do. We had a special emergency audit. And then we had 3 days of canvas. So it did come out to, I think, 11. All right. I'll follow up on that. Okay. Thank you for doing that, Regina. All right. Moving on to campaign fund reports, our nearest and dearest topic and most popular topic. So Alderman Finlayson, or former Alderwoman Finlayson's report was submitted on time and was somewhere in our drive where none of us found it. I did review it. It looked fine to me. Okay, so
Thank you.
can we just get a motion to approve? That's her 5th report.
Yeah. Motion to approve the 5th report from Alderman Finlayson.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. The second one, we still, we kind of kicked the can down the road on former Alderman Gay's reports. We did actually, I went back in my notes, we actually did look at his first one, which was combined with his second one, because they had there were expenses that should have been on the second report that were on the first report. And essentially what we did was we looked at that one, said it needed to be amended, said the second one needed to be amended, and then we didn't review any of the subsequent ones. I went through and did a deep review of them. There's not a whole lot to them. It's just things like the transaction periods are included, so you don't know which one you're looking at. Addresses and that sort of thing. So I actually have done the whole thing, and I would like to send it to DeJuan Gay and his treasurer and just have them fill it out. It wouldn't take very long for them to do these reports. I mean, I'm almost willing to do it myself, but I thought better of it. But I know I've been talking with Regina, we haven't been able to contact them.
After I spoke with you today, Eileen, I spoke with Kaylin, And she says she may have a second number for him. She's checking on her other phone. And
Okay.
if she has a number for him, I'm going to call him first and then to make sure the number works, and then I'll send it to you.
Well, can we also contact his treasurer?
Yeah, we need to find a number for her also.
Okay, I mean, at this rate, depending on how we treat the first two reports, I have the late fees at running at $2,140.
Ooh. Okay.
And I called him twice yesterday on the phone, and for whatever reason, it says cannot be completed is dialed. And I had another non-Annapolis government email for him that hasn't been responded to. So I think at this point, if we can get some addresses, we may just have to send certified. I don't know what else to do, but it wouldn't take very long. And if it requires me doing them just so that they can sign them, that would be fine, but we got to let them know they got to come sign it.
Okay.
I think, Liam, I sent this out if you want to take a look at it at some point. There's really not a whole lot that needs to be done. It just needs mostly corrections.
I've not looked at it, but I trust that you were very thorough with it. And, I understand that frustration of feeling like it's all there and it to be done.
All right, so that's where we are with him. I've been trying to get a hold of Genevieve Torrey to see if I can assist her with. She did submit her 5th report, but she didn't submit, oh no. Did I get it backwards? She said she submitted 2 reports, but she only submitted 1. And I can't remember which one it was. I think it was her.
She may have resubmitted her 3rd and 4th. There's several that still need to. I mean, I think she has only, from my records, have the first one approved. All the rest of them still need to be resubmitted.
Correct. So, and again, it's the same situation that we had with Dewan Gay, which is you can't really evaluate the more recent ones because the previous ones haven't been corrected. I called her again tonight, so hopefully maybe what I'll do is I'll go ahead and do it. A deep dive on hers, but we don't really even have the reports to review. I mean, at least with Dewan Gay, we had reports to review. But I don't think we really have anything we can review tonight of hers. Okay. And
I'm
then,
sorry. Are you talking about Genevieve Torrey?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. And then Liam, I think you said you were able to get in touch with Miss Makel.
Yes, she responded to my email, asked when the submission deadlines were. I responded with that. I offered to meet with her as well to talk through what needs to be submitted. So I think she might be wrapping her head around it for the moment of
Okay.
catching up on all of the homework
Mm-hmm.
this week. And then, so I think it may be a process, but we'll work towards it.
Okay. And then Regina, you mentioned you're going to get the analysis out for everybody
Yes, I'm
tomorrow.
going to send it tomorrow.
All right. And so then the deadline for them will be
The
February
7th, February 2nd.
February 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it might be a fantasy to think that we can get them all wrapped up by our February meeting, but we'll see. I hate to hand this off to the new crowd. All right, but we'll work on it, see if we can't get it done. Anything else on campaign fund reports? I didn't have any on my list. Okay.
Oh, was there any, I guess, were we just missing the Schedule 5 for Creek? I remember we were saying that we didn't have it in the PDF, and then we were checking to see if it was
I knew
in the scanning process.
there was a page or something that was missing.
Yeah, have you heard anything about that?
I did check with Kaylin and it was there and it was blank.
Okay,
It was his schedule 5 was missing.
right, and it wasn't supposed to be blank, right? It was supposed to have stuff on
I don't know about that. Let me look. I can look at my notes.
it. I think if it was supposed to be blank, we wouldn't have made a deal about it. But Schedule 5 is that the
Schedule 5 is the in-kind donations.
I felt like he had something on. I can pull it up again. I felt like he had something on the summary sheet that would suggest that it needed a Schedule 5, and the Schedule 5 was missing.
Well, I'd have to go back and look at that.
We can move on. I'll pull it up as we're talking, but it's fine. We can move on.
So my notes say that number 4 was approved and number 5 was an amended was needed. It's missing Schedule 5 or it wasn't scanned. It doesn't say anything about the content of 5. But I did verify with Caitlin that it was, she did have it, it just wasn't scanned.
All right, so I'm looking at it here. There is in-kind contributions, and I think that's why we were trying to figure out why. Oh wait. Oh. Is that uploaded? Now there's one that does have it. And it appears to be there. Sorry, I'm craning my head around and try to read it. I think there's a chance we can just approve this right now.
Okay.
But I'm pausing here because it would be nice to. Okay. This is the one, oh no, this is, sorry, it's from the previous reporting period. I think it was in yeah, okay, so there is in-kind contributions, and then you scroll down. 4, Schedule 5. Says see attached, but then there's nothing attached. So here, I'll share my screen. Okay. So top is $201.08. It should be on Schedule 5. If we go down to Schedule 5, it says see attached with the $201.08. I assume that he attached a page that looks like this or meant to or something. And it
Okay, but that's not the page?
No, this is for a different schedule.
Okay,
So maybe he just forgot to put it in the package.
okay. All right,
Right.
so he needs to submit that attachment.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. Regina, let me update that analysis and I'll send it to you first thing in the morning.
I was just getting ready to say the same thing. I won't send that one.
Okay. So I'll look at that again, and I can also go ahead and say the fin license has been approved, so that'll go on there too.
Okay.
All right, we're getting closer to a close. All right, I don't have anything else. We're still waiting on amended reports from O'Neill, the Republican Central Committee, and also an amended third from the Republican Central Committee, and I think Debbie was going to follow up with them on that. But the missing ones we've all talked about for number 5, and so we're expecting amended reports for number 5, we're expecting amended reports from Alsop Johnson, Democratic Central Committee, the Republican Central Committee, Gunsberger, O'Neill, Papaglianti, Vincent, and now Creek. So, okay. All right. Anything else on that topic? No. All right. On the general discussion, anything else? Anything?
Were we gonna, do you want to push off the late fees conversation?
Yes, because I think we still need more information on the. I have Gays, but I still think we need to look at Makel and Tories before we.
Okay. Have
really
you,
look at-
would it be helpful if I start to work on, maybe I'll just do it for myself, but just the spreadsheet of when things were submitted for every single person and when they were due and have you?
Yeah, if you could do that, I mean, Kaylin did some of that for us. So
Mhm.
she did some of that information.
Yes,
Uh,
yeah. It seemed like she accumulated all the data of when things were submitted. So I just was thinking I would put it together and then have it calculate how many days late everything was and
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's really just a small number of people. There's not, and some of them that may have been a day or two late have already paid.
Mhm.
I think the only other ones I can think of is I think Rock Taves in the beginning, and then there's only a couple, and then we still need $20 from Ross Arnett, but I'll work on that. Yeah, that'd be great. And if you need some help with that, let me know or shoot it to me. And I kind of have been keeping track of that. So if you, I'm not very spreadsheet savvy. So if you have it in a spreadsheet, I can compare it to my list.
Okay. Yeah, at a minimum, just for my own reference, because yeah, we talk sometimes. So.
Okay, great. All right. Anything else to bring up?
Nope.
Nope. I did have one question. Regina, were you able to find out if we would be able to get on 20 minutes on a work session to do an election report?
Okay, the way that they're handling work sessions, the request comes from an alderman, but I did, the mayor, the current new mayor has work sessions all the way through. I mean, the alderman, we had a training and the alderman submitted a lot of things that they wanted to discuss at work sessions, and they were put on work sessions in the order that they were requested. And so I'm thinking the earliest work session is going to be somewhere around April.
All right, well, then I propose that I'll draft an election summary report that we can look at in February and perhaps submit. But we've always had a work session after each election.
Yeah,
I mean, not each election, but each election cycle.
yeah. But right now they're working on budget.
Okay.
The
All
work
right,
sessions are being cut, or we're having work session on budget at our city council meetings and additional work sessions. So
okay. All right,
that's the
well, we
priority
usually, I
right
mean,
now. Sorry.
yeah, well, the time after the elections is going to be budget sessions. That Adam, I think in January and February. I'd have to look, but maybe January, February in the past. All right, well, I would like to propose that we at least put some sort of summary together um, on the election, and I'm willing to go ahead and draft something. So, okay. All right. Anything else?
Would you like me to move to adjourn?
Yeah, let me just double check real quick. Last month. Okay, yeah, so a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn at 7:55.
All right, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Our shortest one in a long time.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you, Liam.
Have a good long weekend.